Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to V with Mike G, the show of life, the show of tequila, the show of tradition, but mostly a show about the Jimador. Today, I sit down with Jose Cortes of Casa Herradura to talk about his life in tequila, his father being a Jimador, his grandfather being a Jimador, and what that life entails, the wages, the lifestyle, the opportunity, and how Jose broke past what we may consider boundaries and went to school, learned English, and now is at the center of the VIP and trade program for Casa Herradura. And he travels all over the place talking about this tequila. We sip a few and we talk about his incredible life. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Jose Cortes.
Well, I was born from a Jimador.
Yeah.
My father was a Jimador. My father's name was Jesus Cortes. He was a Jimador ever since he was 15 years old. So when I was born, I was very close to my father. So it's me and two brothers more. Mm-hmm. But my other two brothers didn't want to follow my father. So ever since I was a kid, when I was 5 years old, I used to see my father standing and waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, prepare, the things and the coa. Put the coa always on the left, right, on the left hand, always on the left hand.
Really?
I didn't know why.
Yeah.
So once I asked, Father, how come you always carry your coa in your bag on your left? And he told me, when I was 5 or 6, he told me, you will see why.
Yeah.
So once I was with my father, I used to bring something in my hand always because I'm right-handed.
Uh-huh. Was he right-handed as well?
He was right-handed, but he carried everything on his left. And then one day I was with him because I always go with my father to the fields to see, watching he was harvesting. So one day I was with my father, I was carrying something I don't remember what, with something with water. Mm-hmm. So I was, and I stumble and fall. And then when I fall, I didn't protect myself because my right hand was, so I hit my head. So he said, that's why. Since you are right, you have to be always, right hand always free.
Okay.
Oh no, I got it. So I used to remember that. And everything I carry, something I carry in my left hand because I had to have free my right hand in order to protect myself. So I love this because when I was 5 or 6, I used to go with my father. My two brothers, they said, no, I don't want to go. Yeah. So I used to go. My father, he used to get some dry grass and put something like a bed close to the agave plants and stay there, sleep. He started harvesting when I was 5:30 in the morning. And I used to remember, close my eyes, see my father silhouette harvesting because they have to harvest early in the morning to avoid the sunlight. So I still remember when the coa cuts the leaves and that sound, and I see my father. And so I'm in love with that because I saw my father working, and he was a very hard worker.
Proud as well, I imagine.
Yeah. So I started growing up, and I said, I want to learn how to harvest. So I had to wait till when I was 12 or 13 in order to start harvesting. So after when I was 18, 20 on fields, I realized that being a Jimador, it's very hard. It's very difficult, and it's very dangerous.
It's dangerous because, of course, you're wielding a very sharp
the tool,
item, right?
The coa weighs about at least 12 pounds.
12?
About 12 pounds. Okay. And if you hit your leg, you just cut it like this.
Straight through.
Not only the leg, but everything. But Jimador, the coa is part of a Jimador, El Jimador always takes care of his coa because when you harvest agave, it's not about strength. It's about skill. It's about
precision,
and every time you cut, it must be well done, so you won't repeat it. So I also wrote this saying, and you can see it in my emails. I sent an email to you. I don't know if you remember. On the bottom of the email says, if the agave plant is the heart of tequila, then el jimador is the soul of tequila.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because el jimador and the agave and the coa are three together.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that with my father.
And because your brothers didn't want to
They
follow
didn't
in
want to follow.
What was different for you? Was it the way that you could spend time with your father, the way that he appreciated his work, things like that you maybe idolized?
The first time I saw my father, I remember, I went with my father on fields. I love, being on fields in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I still remember the sounds of the birds,
Sure.
the waking up in the morning. And then I also remember something very nice because every time I went, the Jimadores always have breakfast at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Uh-huh.
So by the time they start at 6 and 3 hours later, they stop. They get the dry pricking lips and they start a fire.
Uh-huh.
Then I still remember the smell of the tortilla taco in the broil.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, well, this thing is beautiful because you are on fields. You have to work hard from 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours in the morning, and then you get free.
Yeah.
So
evening is free to do what you will.
What you want.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about it. My father said, and my father wanted me to be a jimador always.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped being a jimador when I was 35.
Oh, really? How many years ago was that?
Oh, I'm 56.
So almost 20 years?
Yeah.
Just over 20 years?
More than 20 years. And my father said once, I told my father, I was on field and I told him that I wanted to have a career.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to study something. He said, no, don't study. Keep being a jimador. You will be good. It will be great. You retire as a jimador.
Yeah.
And I didn't pay attention to that. So I wanted to go to the university to study. So I moved to, and I studied too.
Where did you study?
Communications.
Okay.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And my father, at the beginning, he was upset. He was angry about it. So once, when I was starting and coming back to the fields every now and then, he said, no matter what, you will end your life being a jimador.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what? Well, I don't know. And it was true because I've been a jimador. For at least 10 years, I've been coming everywhere here in USA and everywhere to harvest agave. So
you can't leave it. Yeah.
I can't leave it. He said that you will end your life, and it's true,
Yeah.
And I say, well, I'm not gonna harvest anymore. On field because I'm now moving to the distillery in Casa Herradura, and I'm in the process.
Yeah.
And then he was right because after all, I now every time I come here or go everywhere, I have to go and show how to harvest.
Yeah.
So he was right.
It's when you were pursuing communications, did it make you think about doing something even not larger and more important? That's not the right word, but something more worldly, maybe moving to the States? What kind of opportunities did you see that giving you?
When I was starting, I used to I wanted to be on radio.
Oh, okay.
On radio,
this is
talk about this, yeah. But in order to talk about sports, but in order to talk about tequila, in order to talk about the job of jimadores, right? Different things. I wanted to tell people a lot of histories, a lot of stories, a lot of things about it. But more about this, everywhere I go, I always talk about the jimadores, the people on fields, because I'm coming from fields. No?
Well, and in a sense, you have this rare opportunity to be from the fields, but leaving and being able to communicate.
To tell people.
Learning English is a massive benefit too.
That's right.
Your audience and everything
increases. And in order to be, I have to study English. I have to spend more than 3 years of my life every day in Guadalajara City, every afternoon. After I harvest, I used to go to Guadalajara to learn English. It was not that easy for me.
Wow.
Well, after all, I've been practicing, so that's why now I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it allows you to connect with so many more people,
Yes.
One of the things that's kind of come up recently is, we were talking about this before, I started recording. But we look at the bottles of tequila or mezcal, and we don't always know what the human cost is, right? And I don't know if you know David Searle, but he's a really brilliant restaurateur out of Philadelphia, and he works with Chava at Cascaween, and he brings in Siempre Azul and some other tequilas. But he posted something that said, you think about the cost of the liquid, sure. You think about the cost of the bottle, sure. But do you think about the cost of the wage of the Jimador? And you don't. And to know that there's so much pride in that work, do you feel that in a way the Jimador, they are not recognized the same way that the distillers are and the marketing people are?
Well, I think that all the distilleries depend on the Jimador as a harvester. And I'm not sure about all of the distilleries, but I think that I think they treat them good.
Yeah.
Because remember, if there are no Jimadores, they cannot produce tequila because there's not a machine to harvest agave. I'm not sure about the other distilleries, but talking about Herradura, Casa Herradura always takes care very well of the employees because they are the main part of the distillery, right?
Yeah.
So Jimadores, I think for Herradura, they are also very important. So important that they also create Tequila El Jimador in his honor of the harvest.
Right,
you know?
Right. It's interesting. I don't know if you noticed this, but when you're in the States, because you do a lot of education, I think, for bartenders and for consumers for Herradura, we kind of think we know what's going on in the States, right? We have our perspective, and it's just outward. Like whatever these kinds of journalistic thing, these news outlets say in the States, that's got to be what it is. But I'm getting a completely different sense that in your perspective and your history as a Jimador and in the family, they're respected, they are paid a good wage, and they have opportunity for growth. That's pretty accurate, it sounds like.
Yes, it's like that, because El Jimador nowadays, back in time, I'm telling you about 4 years, 50 years, Jimadores were not recognized that good.
Yeah.
But nowadays, just because, El Jimador, works 5 days a week, and the payment he gets is good to be living in our area.
Yeah.
So being a Jimador is well paid. I mean, I wish they could pay more, right? Because everyone wants more, right? But being a Jimador is a well paid. I mean, if you work on field and you do something else on field that is not a Jimador, you don't get that much. But when you're a Jimador, it's more because but being a Jimador is not that easy. It's not that easy. So being a Jimador on fields now is I'm not saying that it's great pay, but it's well paid because I know how much they make, and that is good money to be living in the place we are at now.
No, and I think that's the insight. And I think that's the thing that I want people to realize. It's always very relative. Dollar here is not the same as
it's not the
dollar
same, right? I got it, yes.
And that's, you got to kind of translate that a little bit. So you go off to school so that you can really tell stories, share stories.
That's right.
Did you ever end up having a radio show?
I've been in radio in Guadalajara, in Mexico, and I was also in England in a radio.
Where in England?
In Londres. In London, I was. I have this information. I was with this guy, very famous guy in London. So I was in an interview with him in England, and I've been telling people everywhere, So that's why when I was thinking about starting something, I said, have to study something in order to tell people.
Yeah.
So the best career was communications,
Yeah.
So that's why I've been everywhere, talking and telling people in order to transfer what I feel about tequila, what I feel about Jimadores, what I feel about my place, I feel about agave plants and the fields,
Yeah. You travel around, you get to connect with people. Do you I always, because we were talking about music, right? So I would be touring, and sometimes I was a singer, sometimes a guitar player, whatever, right?
Yes.
I like the attention. Do you like the education piece, connecting with people,
yes.
being in front of a crowd and kind of?
Yes, I love being in front of a crowd. Yeah, I've been in different TV programs here in USA, New
Really?
York, in Texas,
Sure.
in California, and every time I'm in front of the camera in a TV program, they say, "Ain't you afraid with cameras?" No, I feel comfortable because
Yeah.
I like getting the attention of persons. So every time in a room with a lot of persons, I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable because, first of all, because I tell the truth.
Yeah, sure. Nothing to hide, right?
No, and secondly, because I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And third, or first, because I'm proud. I'm proud about what I'm doing and what I'm saying now.
How many years now have you been working with Herradura?
Here in this area, it's been there for about 20 years.
20 years.
But ever since I was a kid, since I was born there, in that town, which is name is Amatitan, it's very close. You're already been close. So I used to go to Herradura when I was a kid to see my father over there, and I used to go and play. So when I grew up, I wanted to get inside in order to be working, different play areas or wherever. So we are people in Amatitan. We are very related with Herradura. No, Herradura is Casa Herradura is one of the distilleries that give more jobs for families than any other, because that's the biggest tequila company all around.
When did you make what? Because this is a senior role, what I'd consider. You're tequila expert for one, so you've pursued that, and your ability to be able, to your point, what you're talking about, and it's pride, and that's good.
That's right.
But this senior role where you're traveling, and this is about how did that come about when you, in a sense, got promoted to this more global and this more visible role?
Well, when Brown Forma book got Casa Herradura back in the year 2007, so 2 years later in 2009, they told to my manager, we need a person that knows about the process, knows about harvesting, or being a harvester, and talk and speak English. So my manager knew, this guy, I was there. So they told me, you want to travel, you are going to go. And at the beginning, I used to go and harvest agave.
Yeah.
But then I started, since I've been studying a lot about the process, the history, the agave plant and everything. So there is this, I don't know how to say in English, there is this association, let's say association, which name is culture and capacitation about tequila. So this is the only organization all around the world that is allowed to grant to release
kind of like a degree in a way, right?
A Tequila Expert title, So after I'd say 6 years ago, I went to this association. I took my course for 8 days and my final test, and I passed it. And you got your degree.
Oh, that's
great.
Your
degree. I have my degree in my house.
Yeah.
And then you are registered all around the world that you are Tequila Expert. That's a registered mark.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody else can do it. I know a lot of persons know about tequila. A lot of persons they are. Yeah, of course. But I'm telling you because this association is the one that is registered as the one that released Tequila Expert titles. So I became a Tequila Expert because I've been studying a lot about not only the tequila process, but the tequila history, the agave plant. Only the agave plant has a lot of information.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
So when you are a tequila expert, you must know everything about the process, the agave, the tasting, the molecular tasting, the pairing with tequila and everything, I mean, you cannot know everything, but because the more you know, the more dubs you have, right?
That's right.
But after all, as a tequila expert, you must know a lot.
There's so much. And do you find that traveling around, meeting new people, having new conversations, that you are always learning too?
Yeah, every time. Sometimes when I go and talk and new dubs, new questions, because how about this? Oh, now I have to find it out.
Exactly.
Because every time, you have to be learning and learning.
Yeah.
But again, I was training. I was talking with a group of persons this morning, and some have some questions.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So I have the knowledge to answer any question they have.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's something that it didn't come to my mind before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I say, oh, he's right. So I'm gonna find out. Since you already have the knowledge, just know where.
It's like tweaking it.
Which
right?
way to go?
Yeah.
Now, all right. And then after some other occasions, you have more, right? You have more information.
Absolutely. Well, that's the great thing is that one of the my girlfriend mentioned she's listened to some of the older podcasts I'd done with people like Carlos Camarena, Tomas Estes, some of these old,
Tomas Estes,
great folks. And she's like, you didn't even know what a hijuelo was then. And
this
is years ago. And I'm like, well, really? There was a time where I did. But, and you just kind of keep building. And so it got to the point because, I've been a distiller, I have a distillery and all this too. So I understand the process. But so last night was something that I learned, which I'm still little, I don't know, iffy on. But Carlos said this. He said, well, the reason we use a tahona is because it gently crushes the agave. The reason we don't use a shredder is because when you do that, you crack the cellulose, which thus exposes its ability to create more methanol. So I'm not asking if you agree or not, but this was something now I'm wrapping my head around, and I'm trying to think, how can I prove this?
Well, actually, every time I talk about every distillery has its own recipe.
Yeah.
And every distillery is right. Because they believe in that.
That's
right?
Great, yeah.
They believe in that. Some use a tahona, which is okay, because they think that is a better way to squeeze the juice out, right? But some doesn't use the tahona because they say it's not that good. So it depends on the distillery. I mean, after all, every distillery decides which way to go, which way, And not only in the milling, but in every step we take, right?
Of course, the yeast, either natural yeast,
the natural yeast or whatever,
stainless distillation. Yeah, there's plenty of things.
So that's why all of the tequilas are different. That's why every tequila is different. The smell, the flavor, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on the taste of the persons, right? So Herradura is always like that. Herradura is being producing tequila for 150 years. And now we're usually producing the same process. If you haven't been to Herradura before, right?
I've not been yet.
So if you go, you will see the old distillery still standing, just about the same. And then they replicate the almost the same process, but now with more capacity because they believe in that, right? And after all, well, we have these tequilas over here. Yeah, we are going to try them.
Yeah.
So again, every distillery has the right to say that because everyone believes in their own recipe, right?
Right.
What we are now saying is that Herradura has been there for 150 years, and I think it's going to be there for 150 years, right?
Well, so let's talk about, because I'll tell you this, and I'll be frank, because tequila is good and I enjoy it, but I much prefer mezcal, not for the smoke, but for the different kinds of arrays of flavor. So what do you think? We're going to try one of these marks. Which do you feel completely captures the essence of the agave? That material that you woke up so early in the morning to harvest, the smell. Which of these four, because we have the silver, the reposado, añejo, and the ultra. Which shall we taste? Which captures the spirit of?
Well, if you ask me, I always I like them all because after all of these are produced from the Blanco tequila, right? Blanco Herradura. So all of these are going to be the same quality, but they're going to be different because of the time in barrel and the degrees of alcohol or whatever, right? But after all, they come from the Blanco Herradura.
Yeah.
So if you ask me, I always kept in my mind this smell of Blanco Herradura because when I was on field again with my father, ever since I was 5 or 6, back in time, they were able to have their bottle of Blanco Tequila Herradura. So after they harvest for 2 or 3 hours, they stop, have the bottle, and they have some shots and went back to the... So when I was a kid, I used to go to my father's back and I used to go and smell the bottle. And that smell I still remember that smell. So when I go and take a bottle of Blanco Herradura and I smell, I go back in time 40 years at least, right?
Yeah.
So you ask me, I always drink, most of the time drink Blanco.
Sure.
But again, I love reposado and añejo and those because they come from the same product, but now they are different because they age in time. So you ask me, I always drink blanco most of the time, but all of them are great.
Of course.
The reposado class is the class that most people drink all around the world. I mean, talking about all of the tequilas, the reposado class is the most.
Yeah.
But then again, añejos now, the newest, cristalinos are always now are very becoming very famous and popular around.
Yeah, it's starting to pick up a lot of speed in the States. I knew that there was, last I was in Mexico City, Guadalajara and stuff, it's very, very advertised.
And talking about cristalinos, Herradura Ultra, it's so great now because, tequila Herradura is, powerful, a lot of flavor, smell, very, very, let's say complex even.
Sure.
And Cristalino Ultra is kind of smooth,
a little softer, maybe.
Sweet, and then so sometimes people they don't drink tequila. Say, when they try Herradura, say this is tequila because they are used to drink something which is kind of more like more like spicy if it is a reposado añejo. Yeah. So Herradura Ultra is kind of smooth, sweet to your mouth. You say this is tequila. Yes, it's tequila because Herradura knows that there are some different tastes all around, right?
Yeah.
So some say, I don't want tequila because maybe tequila for them is kind of powerful, a lot of flavor and spicy. When they drink Herradura, they say, this is great. It's tequila, it's smooth, it's sweet,
Yeah. Well, so let's sip some silver.
Yeah, some silver, all right.
Yeah, and we get a couple of Herraduras. And let's talk about the process a little bit. Because I know you're also very concerned about sustainability, which is a really important
That's very important,
topic,
yes. This is the silver for you. Yes, well, I'll tell you about the process very quick. First, to produce Tequila Herradura, we always harvest ripe agave, which is about 7 years. And then we cook it in brick and clay ovens.
Okay. Steam, right?
We steam it, but in brick and clay ovens, right? The way we used to ever since they started. And then we squeeze the juice out.
Sure.
Then we have juices. And then after we have juices, we measure the degrees of sweetness of the juice. But when we are milling, we add a little water to get all the juice away. So since we add a little water in the milling, this juice is not that sweet. So on close to the juices, we have this other vat in which we catch the agave honey from the oven.
Okay.
So when the agave is already cooked, since there are 48 tons in the oven, in the brick and clay oven, they mash the agaves from the top, mash the agaves on the bottom, and thick agave honey falls in the oven's floor. So we have a pipe connected through which we get the agave honey out. Then after we know how sweet the juices from milling are, we know how many liters of agave honey we add to increase the sweetness. So that's 100% natural, right?
Yeah, okay.
And then we ferment all natural. You're aware of that, right?
Yes, right. And these are stainless fats, I guess? Yeah.
Yes, we depend on the environment. Then around the fermentation, we have a lot of sweet or citrus fruit trees such as mango, lime, orange, mandarin, palma grana.
So those yeast are
the yeast are always there, and then the yeast consume the sugars of the juices, and then produce alcohol. And then we distill twice, and then we produce blanco.
Twice in column?
In pot stills. Pot stills? Yes.
Yeah, this might be the first time I've had this in a while.
This is 40%. It smells fruity.
And the thing is, there's a, and it could be because you told me about the mangoes and stuff, but I remember I was deep into the Sierra Norte in Oaxaca and sipping a mezcal that had the same kinds of fruits going around.
All right.
And I swear I could taste the fruits, because those are the yeast that are there. And so this has this crispness to it.
Yeah, but, the fruit trees around are for the wild yeast on the air to consume the sugars of the fruit and reproduce themselves,
Yeah.
Now, when you taste a flavor or smelling in this case, in this tequila, it's because during the fermentation, not only alcohol is produced, but during the fermentation, a lot of organic compounds are produced.
Sure. Yeah.
Such
ester.
aldehyde.
Yeah.
Talking about the flavor, you say what do you taste in the what flavor you taste? You say?
Yeah. Well, it's a kind of a crisp thing. Maybe a little bit of citrus, maybe.
Citrus, maybe a little apple, banana.
Yeah.
So that's due to the esters. The esters are organic compounds that give you those flavors, right? If we say fruity might come from the cooked agave, might come from the aldehydes, which are another organic compounds, right? So that's kind of a nature plays.
Sure.
In the fermentation, nature plays,
And I think that's the exciting thing about tequila and why it remains something that feels so organic. Now, I love whiskey, and we were talking about it, but it's just a little less life to it. Does that make sense? Like agave, raicilla, soto, tequila, there's just more texture to it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the open air and fermentation. It comes from the air, Well,
tequila is, comparing with some other beverages such whiskey, vodka, brandy, tequila is different due to the raw material, which is the agave plant. It depends on the raw material which is coming from, right?
Sure.
If you say, for instance, cachaça is another beverage in Michoacán, it's made out of sugar cane, right? So it depends on the raw material, it's the way they are.
Yeah.
So tequila is very different because the composition of the sugars that the agave produces, which is the inulin, the composition is very different, right?
Very complex sugar.
It's very complex sugar.
Multiple type fructose.
A lot of fructose and just a little glucose. And you see starch from the potato, it's a lot of glucose.
Yeah, it's really
so that's why it's very different.
Yeah, it gives its life to the glass, whereas
that's right.
Corn gives a season. It's really not the same kinds of sacrifice. Well, one of the things, this article just came out, and I don't really care who wrote it, to be honest, but it was mentioning how diffusers have such an impact on sustainability and the quality of agave. Because, of course, if you use a diffuser, this material, or rather this machine, you can use agave that's really, really young, and it doesn't taste as good,
Well,
do you guys have a stand? Do you have a...
It depends again on the company, on the distillery, the future is not a most persons say, it's a bad thing, it's terrible. No, it depends. It depends on the way the company uses the diffuser.
Sure. And I've just chatted with Alan from Casa Herradura, and they use a diffuser, but they used it in a way which I'd never heard of before, and it was mostly to cook the agave, not to add acids and things like that. That seems like maybe a more responsible way to use.
Again, I cannot talk about somebody else's does, Again, it depends on the distillery, it depends on the company. But again, for instance, for Casa Herradura always stays on the right. Not the right, but on the green way. For instance, the sustainability in Casa Herradura is very important. So again, I cannot talk about something the other distilleries do.
Sure.
But if you use the diffuser, this is very simple thing. It's just add water and squeeze the sugars away. It depends on any company. They do what they do with the diffuser. So again, it's part of the recipe of every distillery.
Right.
Use it or not use it some way, use it some other way.
Do you think that, or rather, what have the efforts been for you to make sure that you only use high quality agave that's appropriately mature? Do you do replanting, reforestation, anything like that for the sustainability aspect?
Yes. For instance, they plant baby agaves. They have thousands of hectares all around Jalisco State, right? Planted with the agaves, different ages. So every time they harvest, after they harvest, they let the land to rest for at least 5 months. So after 5 months, when they cook agave, they squeeze the cooked agave juice and they get the pulp.
Yeah.
We have this area in which we send this pulp of the matcha agave, tons and tons of pulp of matcha agave, and then every day we are, with a machine removing the pulp. So after 5 months, that pulp becomes a dust, which is compost, and we take it to the fields and we fertilize the fields with that.
Yeah.
And after that, they plant baby agaves.
So it's a way to use, so they're cooked
because this is after the process, after the fermented.
After they cook, they meal, and then they get the pulp, right? The fiber of macho agave.
Because that's not going in the ferment anyway. It's just kind of a byproduct, right?
Yeah.
Just getting
And then we transform this after 5 months. We transform this, and just by airing that, we transform it into compost.
Yeah.
And then we take it to the fields and we fertilize organics with that compost, and then we replant baby veg. So Casa Herradura let the land to rest for at least 5 months to replant baby agaves. And not only that, but then during the process, for instance, in the distillation, after the first distillation, since pot stills, after the first distillation, we get the waste, which is called vinaza. So we take vinaza to the water treatment plant in Casa Herradura, and then we we take the solids and everything, and then we clean water and we use it for fields or for restrooms. And also we use we don't throw no pollution to the soils or the rivers. And also in the second distillation, and then we get the higher alcohols and the tails. After we get the best of the alcohols, then the higher alcohols and tails are sent to the water treatment plant and use it as energy to run it.
Oh, no.
So Casa Herradura is always very concerned about the environment. Yeah. It's a green company.
Do you feel more people are asking questions about sustainability now than in your career with?
Yes, because we have tours every day in Casa Herradura, tours for people to see the process and everything. And every time, a lot of persons, they say, what do you do with the waste? Mm-hmm. So when you go there, you see the milling and everything, and then close by you will see the waste treatment plant. So we have the waste treatment plant. So people, every time we show them what we do. Yeah. And then they are kind of, that's great, because we are concerned about the world and the environment.
And you are the consummate tour guide, right? You're the VIP tour for trade at the distillery or more for travel?
Yeah, my position in the distillery, when I'm not traveling, when I'm not doing these things over here, I'm there because I have the VIP host for media. For media and VIP visitors.
Sure.
So every time there is let's say a radio station, there is a TV, a program, or a VIP guest, I have to be there in order to answer the questions, because sometimes they have a lot of persons know a lot of tequila,
That's right, yeah.
So I have to deal with them in order to answer everything they want to. Mm-hmm. So that's my position, VIP host in Casa Herradura now.
That may involve drinking tequila. It's possible.
Yes.
Traveling, hosting, it can have an effect on your health, especially as we get older, right? And so for you being healthy, but also being a good host and drinking responsibly and all of that, what for you are some things you do to maintain that balance between being healthy and being a very lively host?
Well, yes, you have to be very careful, because after all, we have to, it's alcohol, right? But you have to be very careful. And in Brown Format, we have this thinking, drink responsibly. Mm-hmm. So when I am there at the distillery, sometimes I have 2 or 3 groups, very important groups, and every time I have to taste tequila with them, right? So I have to taste it because I taste it, but every time I taste it's a sip, because I have to tell them what this is about. Sure. So when I travel, also I'm in some on-premise and off-premises talking about tequila. I have to, like now I'm tasting, so I have to be professional, Yeah. But to be in a good shape and to be always kind of healthy, it's part of it depends on the person, right? Mm-hmm. For me, it's I follow some kind of I'm not on a diet, of course. But I try not to drink, too much fat, those things, right? I'm already 56, so I have to take it. Even if I'm not doing this, I have to be taking care of myself, right?
That's right, yeah.
So I used to run a lot. Ever since I was 15 years old. Mm-hmm. But after I've been traveling, I don't have that
tough,
time.
Right?
Yeah, I've been, but I have to go. I'm now going back to run every day. So that's one of my how would I say? I love playing drums.
Sure.
I love being here talking and telling about, and I love running.
Wow.
Yeah. But I lived that for almost 2 years, But I'm thinking, well, going back to run. Yeah, that's what I do. I've been doing that for a lot of years. So running for me is the best exercise I can ever do.
Sure. Well, it clears your head too, gives you some perspective.
When you're running, you think about a lot of things, and then you get a lot of ideas, So running is for me the best workout.
When you were talking about drumming is actually pretty good workout too, depending. But as a drummer, were you touring? Were you playing in bands?
No.
Just only
Ever since I was a kid, I used to see these guys on TV playing the drums and the guitars and everything. No, the drums. So there was a group in my town. There is none that disappeared. This group was in my town when I was 5 or 6. Still, I remember this group was. Back in the 70s.
Sure.
No, late in the 60s, because I was born in 64.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
that's a good year, by the
16,
way.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of good records come out that year.
All right.
Yeah.
So when I was about 6, 7 years old, I used to go to these guys in my town. There was a group which name was Los Firus.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the drummer, the guitar, and there was a guy with a, I don't know, it was not piano, it was something like that.
Yeah.
So I used to go and see the guy don't know the drummer. I used to tell this guy, can I hold I don't know how to call the sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Can I hold? No. He didn't let me not even once.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, I had to buy my old drums. I had to pay money and every month. So I didn't even ever play a drum. So when I have my drum, I start going in easy rhythm,
Yeah, sure.
Tum, 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 tum.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first time, so this is me. So I went to a guy to teach me more and more. And now, well, I spend hours and hours playing the drums.
That's great.
Always rock music, rock, easy. The 80s.
Yeah, give me a couple bands you really liked from the 80s.
Ooh, from the 80s, it's a lot, Van Halen, Rod Stewart. One that I love is Bruce Springsteen. I love Bruce Springsteen. Yeah. And, what else? Scorpions and...
Big.
This group, which is very famous, but it's not Outfield. Outfield?
Yes,
I bought that record when I was back in the 80s. Outfield.
Yeah, that was great.
And a lot of great bands from the 80s, and singers too.
Totally. Well, that's when I was born in the 80s. So for me, that's like the most important generation.
I think
music.
So.
I think it influences a lot the way we think about creativity, the way we think about each other too. It's 3 generations, but it's possible it's going to become fourth generation. Is it a similar story with your son? Because you've got 2 kids, right?
It's my son and my daughter. Okay. My son is already married. Oh. My son is almost 16. Yeah, my son knows everything about my father. I told him everything. He met my father, met my son, and my son met my father. And he knows about everything. When he was about 9 years old, he told me to make a small cow for him. I made it for him. Mm-hmm. But now he's 16. He's as tall as me, and he's kind of strong. Mm-hmm. So he knows everything about the story of my father and my grandfather. So he now has that feeling too. Yeah. He wants to go to the fields to harvest already. No, not yet. He doesn't know what is about to be on fields. But he knows everything about. He has the feeling, mm-hmm. Thank God. The passion. Because sometimes they say, no, I don't want to. I want to do something else, right? But he has a passion. So he wants to harvest. But the sad thing is that he said, I'm going to harvest, but I'm going to start a career just like me. Mm-hmm. I said, repeats.
It's a good, but that's a great balance, right?
Yeah.
To do it and to learn about it.
He wants, his name is Jose Gabriel, mm-hmm. like me, Jose Gabriel Cortes. He wants to study medicine.
Oh, wow.
All right. I said, well, maybe the knife and the tool, the coil, some relation, right?
The scalpel.
Yeah, he's always on the computer watching everything that when the doctors the
operations
surgeries and whatever, and he said I don't want to see that. It's beautiful. Oh, that's why you like the coil, because you want to cut
precision.
I think so.
So Jose, I have 2 questions left for you, because I know you guys have got more things to do here in Austin. So the first is, you could sip, let's say, the Herradura Silver with anybody, living or deceased. Who would you love to just sit and have a sip of tequila with?
who do I love to be sitting at?
Yeah,
with?
it could be Bruce Springsteen, could be Mark
No.
Knopfler, you know?
No. I didn't have the chance to have a tequila with my father.
Oh, wow.
Didn't have the chance. He died back in the year of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, by the time he was 80 years old, he was very healthy, but he was sleeping and he didn't wake up anymore.
Mm.
So if you ask me that, I would love to have a shot with my father on the field. Nobody else.
Yeah. It's
I would
amazing.
love to. I would love to.
It seems very fitting.
Yes.
A beautiful metaphor.
You know, that's funny because they asked me 3 times before they asked me that question.
No,
Would you like to have a shot with someone?
Yeah.
And they say, whom? Someone, but I said, my father.
Yeah.
I didn't have the chance because by the time he was old, he didn't drink.
Mm.
And I have some shots
yeah.
sometimes. So there is this custom in Mexico. You are not supposed to be drinking at the same time with your father.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, it's not right.
Oh.
I mean, drinking when you drink a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I saw my father drinking and he was so strong, so brave.
Yeah.
He back in time, we're talking about the 60s, 50s, 70s.
Right.
He was young. He used to drink and go in harvest. He was a very, very tough guy.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I wish I could be like him. I'm not that much, not this close. But yes, if I had a chance, I dream about with my father and me in one house. This is a house I'm building on the fields, in the house, in this afternoon, and saying cheers.
Yes.
Only one shot to talk about the life we live and everything.
Of course.
It would be him. It would be him.
To celebrate. So you guys are off to, I believe, a dinner this evening. And
Yes.
a little bit outside of Austin. What can we expect from going to one of these dinners where you're hosting?
We are going to have a tasting and a dinner tasting, tequila dinner. Yeah, well, most of the time when we go and do these things, first of all, we appreciate people to come.
Yeah.
That's very, I mean, that's important. And we try to tell people what tequila is about and what Tequila Herradura is also about, So a lot of I've been doing this for almost 10 years, and every time we talk about, a lot of persons are very interested because they know tequila, but they say, where is coming from?
Yeah, right.
So we tell them. So there is a lot of things happens before you drink a shot of tequila.
Absolutely.
So we tell them, and we don't want to say, oh, this is the process. We harvest it. No. We tell them what this is. What it cost to produce a bottle of tequila, So a lot of people is very interesting when we start talking, because so if you show there, you will love it, you will see it.
Well, this is good. It's been such a pleasure. I'm glad Isaac introduced us and that you're in town. You're not in Austin very often, from what I understand. So it's really been a pleasure chatting with you, sipping some tequila and talking about your life. I will see you soon in Amatatan. I'll see you.
Thank you very much. I'll see you there, all right? I hope it's going to be soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there we have it. What do you guys think of Jose? A made man, He saw opportunity by going to school. He saw opportunity by learning the English language, learning business, and now has this great role with Herradura where he travels around, even mastering his tequila knowledge and being acknowledged as someone very, very credited in the industry of agave. Regrettably, I haven't had a lot of Jimadors that have come into town, and I haven't went to interview them in the fields, and I want to bring more of that story to the forefront. I think we kind of forget sometimes that this plant was harvested by somebody that was out in the field, and we finally get a little bit of detail as to what that life is like with Jose talking about his father. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how disappointed you are in the Weller Foolproof release, or if you're thinking, man, the holidays are just around the corner, I'm not sure if I have enough time to buy everybody a great gift, please keep dancing.